All right, guys. All right, people, you had some questions. I'm going to start with the basics. This is called an electric unicycle. It goes about 40 miles an hour. There are some that can do 50, 55. They cost between $1,500 and $4,000. Bang for a buck because of the form factor. They're very efficient. You're going to get more out of these than you will a scooter or an electric bike. Range is the big thing on EUCs. Bikes and scooters tend to get more top speed depending on how much you pay for the unit. There are also one wheels. There are big fat wheels inside of a skateboard with a big fat wheel in the middle. That is a one wheel. The range and the speed aren't that great on those. Some people love them. They're a lot of fun. It's a different experience. This is here in Portland, Oregon, and here the bicycle laws are a little bit more liberal. That changed a few years ago, so now, you're not going to get a ticket for running a red light, that sort of thing. But it's not like New York, where people are really aggressive with their riding habits. And I try not to get too aggressive because people here just aren't used to it. And let's see what else. The gear. First I'm going to start with the learning curve. Is it hard to learn to ride? It's not, because it balances you front to back like a hoverboard. So it's almost like having an extra wheel in front of you or in back of you. So once you get going, it's like a bike. So if someone learns how to ride the bike, the first thing they try to learn is not going to be just standing still on the bike. Nobody really cares about that. So if you kind of take that approach to the electric unicycle, and get going to keep your balance, it'll be a lot easier for you. But people assume it's the unicycle, you're supposed to do something super talented with it, and you don't have to do that. A lot of people can't ride backwards. I can, but it's not that bad. So now safety. If you wreck on one of these, you have to have gear on, and it's not necessarily because it's more. You are more exposed. You don't have. You have more control of how you fall. So. You don't have to. Wrecking on a scooter or a bike is kind of awkward. Wrecking on a motorcycle, I'm going to compare this to that, is you got 500-600 pound bike, depending on what kind of bike you got. It just depends on how you fall. But if you have gear on, you should be okay, because you've got a limited number of things that it can happen when you fall on it. So, I mean, you usually you're either going to drop back or you're going to drop forward, or if you do it on the side, you don't have things in the way. So it's not as dangerous as it looks compared to a bicycle or a scooter. And but in order for you to get that, because you are going to hit the ground. When you hit the ground, more of you is more likely to hit the ground. So once you have your gear on, and because of these things, how they look, most people are going to have more gear on. So the wrecks tend to be not as bad, as long as they have their gear. Because, most people who can afford these things can afford some, a good motorcycle helmet like I have, a full-face helmet of some sort, knee pads. So if you do get one of these, understand that if you get these stunt pads, which helps you jump, it also helps you brake and accelerate, gives you more leverage. It's also going to lock you into the unicycle, so if you do wreck or if anything goes out on this thing, it's going to lever you down and you're going to hit the ground pretty hard. So without that, if you just have the stock pads, which gives you a little bit of leverage to brake and to accelerate, there's nothing over your foot holding you in or on. What happens is when something goes wrong, you just end up walking off the unicycle. But also be aware, there's one more thing I was going to say about these. Oh, if you hit a bump, A bump can knock you off of the unicycle if you're not gripping it. So having stunt pads can also, in that scenario, it could be more safe because it can keep you on the unicycle. Say if you're doing jumps, you can't really, I mean, you can, but uh, you really need to be able to keep your feet on the pedals, and the pads help you do that. So, um, there's buy now, pay later services connected to these. Oh, where to buy them? So there is Alien Rides where I got this. So alienrides.com, and then I'll leave some links down at the bottom. There's also ewheels.com. Those are the two main ones. There's Rev Rides, which is actually here in, not in Portland, it's right across the river in Vancouver, Washington. And if you're here in this area, then you can actually go pick one up. They don't have as much of a selection, but they have the ones that most people are buying. So there's that. So the more I get into this video, the more in depth I'll get. So some of these, the newer ones have shocks. This one does not, and that really helps. If you're doing 40, 30, even 25, you hit a bump that you don't see, you're gonna feel it, and it can also damage the rim. These are motorcycle type rims. I'm going to take a step back and actually go into the durability and maintenance involved with these. They are surprisingly, and I say this as somebody who delivers food with one, I could do, 40 to 90 miles in a day. And on a bicycle, I was constantly changing chains. You're doing 8 hours on a bike. Not everybody does that on a daily basis. So the bikes aren't really, the bike that I had at least, you'd have to get something built for that amount of use. And the rims on this, they're more like a motorcycle or a scooter rim. So they're, a lot more, what's the good word? Well, they're just more substantial. And the tires are more of a scooter or motorcycle tire. You can actually put a motorcycle tire on this, and you're going to get a lot less flats. You do not have to worry about flats almost ever on this thing, unless you ride it with a tire pressure too low and then you hit a bump or a curb. But in that case, the valve and the valve stem will usually has a pressure safety limit, and it'll let the pressure out, and then when you hit something hard, and then you just air it back up, and it's fine. But maintenance is almost nothing unless you do something really crazy. You wreck it and you crack the frame. If you take care of them, I mean, it's compared to wrecking something else where it's just completely out of commission. On a bicycle, it's going to be you're going to pay less to repair this usually than you would a bike, and because they're so simple, it's a motherboard, it's a motor, and batteries. And batteries have a battery management system attached to the packs, but that's it. And it brakes on regen. So there's no brake pads to change. Yeah, man, it's a really simple machine. So should you get one, understand the only downside to something like this is really convenient because of the size. I can take it in any pretty much anywhere. They think it's a suitcase on wheels usually. Um, nobody I get a pretty positive response from almost everybody, and this is me going into a lot of businesses, a lot of apartment complexes. Um, but every time you get on this thing, you need to put your gear on, and that is inconvenient. Um, and when you buy one, you have to consider the price of your gear and the price of sometimes, you try something, it doesn't really quite work the way you want it to, so you have to buy something else. Um, should you buy a small one to learn on? And the answer is um, no, because they have a good resale value. If you buy it, you don't like it, it's real easy. You're going to lose a little bit of money, but you're going to lose a lot more if you buy a small one. And those, I don't think, are as easy to sell. I could be wrong. I guess if you get a small one, you could sell the small one and get a bigger one. But if you get a bigger one, um, they're uh, the difference between the smalls and the big. You got about 25 pounds for the really small ones. This is about 90 pounds. So depending on what you can handle. But when you look up these unicycles online, you're going to see the specs. So that can kind of give you an idea of what you want to put up with. And yeah, I'll probably think of something that I should have put in here earlier or later. Anyways, yeah, thanks for clicking. Instead of the more people ask, the more it kind of feels aggressive. Same questions over and over again. I'm getting really good at it, so it comes out smooth. But it's still, I'd rather you watch this video. So thank you and good day.